My project tonight is to fix this croquet mallet that's been broken. The end rotted off, and so the threaded part is all broken off. So I'll need to use a wood threader, and I just happen to have one right here to thread the male threads. There's a fixture, and I'll put my router on top of here with a little V-groove bit to cut the threads, and then this is the jig for the 1-inch dowel, and I'll just stick the dowel in here and turn the dowel, and as it goes through the V bit will cut the threads, and then there are threads on the other side to catch those threads after they're cut and just space it right through. So I'll show you that process as I do it. I've turned this dowel on the lathe, but I need it to be an exact dimension. I need exactly a 1-inch round dowel. So I have this steel plate with the exact dimension, different size holes cut in it. And I'm just going to take this dowel rod that I've turned to almost 1 inch, and I'm going to hammer it through this middle hole here in the steel plate, and that'll size it exactly right, because I'm going to make a threaded rod out of this. So I've put the router on top of my threading jig. You can barely see the jig now, but it's in there with the veining bit in it. And what I'll do is start off very shallow with the veining bit, just because I don't want to start off too deep and cut the threads too deep. This is what happens if you have the bit set too deep. You can see it really cut way down too deep, and the threads are pretty much gone. So I'll just cut this part off and start over with the router raised up a little bit. Here I have the threaded rod, and I threaded it long enough so that it'll go through the depth of the mallet head, just like that. So the threads in the mallet are not the same size, not even the same size hole. So I'm going to have to go ahead and drill this hole for this size threads, and then I'll tap it, and then we could just screw the mallet head on to this, and then we'll attach this to the rest of the mallet handle. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken the mallet and I held it up next to the threads and found out where the mallet thread started and marked it, and then I've marked this piece. I cut off the rotten part, and I've marked this piece where the mallet is going to end. So I'm going to turn this section of the dowel down to 1/2 inch diameter, and then I'll drill a 1/2 inch diameter hole in the mallet and glue that in there, and then maybe put in a pin across there to make sure it doesn't come out. And then I could put it all together, sand it down and varnish it, and it'll just be a continuation of the stick, sort of like the original condition. Now that I have my threaded dowel with the turned down end, this is a 1/2 inch, I want to drill a 1/2 inch hole in the end of my stick. So I've set up a jig here with a board to rest it up against, and a horizontal drilling press basically. I've set the stop so that it'll only go as deep as this. Now that I've got the threaded dowel rod gluing in the mallet handle, I used a hose clamp just to clamp around here to keep it from splitting open. It did split a little bit, so I clamped it down, and the glue is in the split. So while that's gluing, I can work on the mallet head. I have a tap that I'm going to use to tap to the same size threads that I put in the mallet handle, and this hole is too small for the tap. So I'm going to drill it out. It needs to be, I think this is a 3/4 or 7/8 inch bit. So I'm going to drill it out and then tap it. And because the threads don't start until about 3/4 inches in on this tap, I'll have to drill all the way through for this. So I'll just drill all the way through the mallet, tap it all the way through, and then when I thread it down, I'll just sand it off even with this end. Alright, I'm going to tap the mallet head with this tap, and so the smooth part here without the threads gets it started straight, and then I'll just I'll use a crescent wrench to turn the tap and just tap all the way through. So I just need to do a little bit of cleanup. I'll sand this off smooth, and I'll when I get the clamp off of here after the glue is dried, I'll sand this joint off smooth and fill it so that it looks nice, and then I'll put some clear urethane on this and show you the finished product after I get it done. So I've attached the threaded part to the mallet handle and sanded it down and varnished it, so that's finished. I tapped the head of the mallet, and you can just screw it on. The threads are fairly smooth, and it's ready to play with. Thanks for watching.